Welcome to my video lecture based on capacitors start of single phase induction motor. This topic is included in the paper of Electric Machine 2, paper code PCEE 501 based on markout curriculum. Myself Purnam Banerjee, Assistant Professor of Electrical Engineering Department, Dr. Sudhir Chandra Degree Engineering College. In my last lecture, I have discussed about the capacitor start motor, and today I will continue the second part of the capacitor start motor. We know that single phase induction motor is not inherently self-starting. It needs a starting device or auxiliary winding or starting means to start the single phase induction motor. So, there are various kinds of starting methods are there for single phase induction motor. Based on the starting methods, single phase induction motors are different types. So in my last lecture, we have started that capacitor start induction motor, and we have shown that there are mainly four types of capacitor start motor. Three types of capacitor start motor. One is capacitor start motor. Second one, capacitor start, capacitor run motor. Third one, permanent capacitor type motor. So in my last lecture, I have discussed about capacitor start motor. And like any other single phase induction motor, the fact is when the motor is getting its 70% of rated value speed, the auxiliary windings are disconnected and the motor is running with its main winding. This concept is same for maximum type of single phase induction motor. Only the difference happens when it is about permanent capacitor type motor. And for all other purposes it is same. Now in this lecture we will see that how that single phase induction motor of capacitor start and capacitor run are basically working. In our last lecture we have seen that only capacitor start motor is working, and after reaching the 70% of speed the auxiliary part is removed and the motor is run with only main winding. But here we will see another type of motor which is permanent capacitor type motor. There we will not remove the capacitor from the supply, and throughout the time the capacitor will come and work with main winding. So let us start with the first one, that is capacitor start motor and capacitor run motor. That means here we have two capacitors, one for starting and another being connected throughout the time of running also. So this type of motor is also known as two-valve capacitor motor. Why it is called two-valve? Because it has two parts, one for running part, another for starting part. That means it acts like two-valve. Two-valve capacitor or two capacitors are present here. So in the figure we can see that two-valve capacitor motors where one capacitor of running purpose is connected and another one which is connected for starting purpose. And this is basically a cage rotor, and its stator windings has two windings, namely main winding and auxiliary winding or starting winding. The two windings are displaced 90 degrees in space, and the motor uses two capacitors, starting capacitor CS and running capacitor CR, and two capacitors are connected in parallel at the time of starting. Now you can see in the diagram that the starting capacitor is connected with a centrifugal switch. From this switch connection we can easily understand that After reaching the 70% of speed, the starting capacitor will be removed. So we have connected this with a switch so that it can operate as per our requirement. Let us see the diagram first. This is our single phase supply which we have given. Let the V amount of voltage is flowing. You can see the voltage value is V here. Then the total current I will flow through this path. Now it will be divided into two portions. One is for main winding part, another for auxiliary winding part. This is main and this one is for auxiliary winding. This is auxiliary winding where the auxiliary winding current IA is flowing. Okay. Now see what will happen. The capacitor CS is called starting capacitor. In order to obtain the high starting torque, a large current is required. For this purpose, the capacitive reactance X in the starting winding should be low. Okay. Since X equals to 1 by 2 pi FCA, the value of CS should be large. That means the value of capacitance will be very large. Starting capacitor value will be very large. The capacitor CS is short time rated and almost always it is electrolytic type. Okay. Because this capacitor is used only for the starting purpose, so the value of this capacitance should be high so that the value of Xc is low, and it is almost always electrolytic type. And during this normal operation, the rated current is smaller than the starting current. Hence, the capacitive reactance should be large. Xr equals to 1 by 2 pi FCr. The value of Cr should be small. As the motor approaches synchronous speed of the capacitor CS is disconnected by a centrifugal switch, which I have already told you that the centrifugal switch will remove the capacitor CS when the motor reaches a certain speed. The capacitor CS is permanently connected to the circuit. This is the main difference. Here the capacitor CR is connected in the circuit and it is known as the run capacitor. It is long time rated for continuous running, and so it is generally oil-filled paper type capacitor. Since one capacitor CS is used only at starting and another capacitor CR for continuous running, this motor is known as capacitor start and capacitor run motor. So remember the concept. Here we have used two capacitor, one for starting purpose. At the time of starting, that means two capacitors are working, CS and CR. And after certain time, when it reaches the speed of 70%, then the CS capacitor will be removed and only the running capacitor will be present. That means when we are adding this extra capacitor, definitely the smooth running of the induction motor is possible. And this type of motors are very efficient type. You can easily understand that when we are using this capacitor, the additional force we are giving, that means the motor capacitance efficiency becomes enhanced, and the rotational purposes, whatever amount of force is required, that will be supported by the capacitor itself. So this is the main difference of capacitor motor and capacitor start, capacitor run motor. Now let us see the phasor diagram of 2-valve capacitor. Okay. So these two figures of phasor diagram of 2-valve capacitor motor are shown here. At the starting, both capacitors are in circuit. So definitely the angle phi should be greater than 90. And when CS is disconnected, then phi becomes 90-degree electrical as shown in figure. So what happened when only main winding plus auxiliary winding, both capacitors start and capacitor run are together performing, then the voltage and current phasor relations, we are getting the phase difference between voltage and current which is more than 90 degree. Okay, so that means suppose this is main winding, suppose this is our reference axis B, and main winding is resistive plus inductive in nature, so IM will be definitely lagging, and the auxiliary winding will be more than 90 degree. So this will be present here. This is the auxiliary winding when the both capacitors are working together. This is more greater than 90 degree. Okay. And when we are removing the auxiliary winding running capacitor, at that time the main winding phase difference angle becomes lesser and the auxiliary winding also shifted, and the phase difference between this main winding and auxiliary winding is 90 degree only. So this is IA and this one IF. Now we will see the torque speed characteristics of 2-valve capacitor. This is capacitor start and capacitor run motor. Here we have taken the torque speed characteristics, and in this torque speed characteristics we can see that this portion when the main winding plus auxiliary winding both are running, and after certain time it will remove the starting winding capacitor and only the run capacitor are running. So the maximum torque part is slightly reduced when one capacitor is removed, but still the torque speed characteristics is much better than previous motors, capacitor start motor or resistance start capacitor motor. Compared to that, this motor is much better than those. The applications here is permanent stick capacitor motors are definitely expensive, and they are used for fan and blowers in heaters and air conditioners. So that means blower fans and heater fans are generally capacitor start, capacitor run or 2-valve capacitor type motors, and they are also used for office machinery. Now the next thing, I will not showing you the diagram, I just discuss the part that is the permanent capacitor type motor. In permanent capacitor type motor, definitely you have to understand that this portion will be not there. That means this CS part will be missing in case of permanent capacitor type motor, where the capacitor will be connected throughout the time and our diagram will be just like this, and this part will be omitted. This part will be not there. This part will be just omitted. Okay. So in permanent capacitor type motor, I am just highlighting this will be not there in permanent capacitor type. This will be there. And running capacitor will be present throughout the time. That means the circuit will be up to this. And when the capacitor will be present throughout the time, that means starting to running, this capacitor will be present. So this type of capacitor will be definitely oil-filled type capacitor, and because it has to run throughout the time, and also the phase difference of main winding and auxiliary winding will be always 90 degree because of the capacitor effect, and the value of the capacitor will be definitely high, and so that the XC value is low, and throughout the time the phasor diagram will be looking like this one, because here only one winding is present. That means the phasor diagram will be looking like this for permanent capacitor type motor, where only one capacitor is present and it is for throughout the time. The capacitor will be not removed at all. All the time this capacitor will be present. So that motor is known as permanent slip capacitor type. And definitely the nature of the curve of torque speed characteristics will be just like this one. Here there is no part of removing auxiliary winding, so definitely it will maintain the torque speed characteristics of this one only, that run capacitor is present throughout the time. When on auxiliary winding, there is no matter of cutout of the auxiliary winding from the circuit, so throughout the time it is running, and that is known as permanent capacitor type motor. So up to this is for today's class, and we are very much happy that I think you will understand this phenomenon, that how capacitors type motors are actually working. And I have taken all these references from the book of Ashfaqushon Electrical Machines, and you can go through the books of Nagrat Kothari, and also a Chakraborty book of electrical machines are also good. So definitely you just go through this lecture and you will understand the difference between capacitor motor and capacitor start, capacitor run motor, and permanent capacitor type motors. And this is very important topic for single phase induction motor. Thank you for listening my lecture.